this? Is this deliberate, or is it just each film is kind of created in an organic way?
Well, I always used to try and set out to be politically incorrect as
Good for you.
and to try and be controversial, because I mean that's we used to start off. I mean, there was a writer I worked with a lot who did Frightmare and House of Mortal Sin and David McGillicuddy.
Yes.
And we used to really, apart from House of Whipcord, which I had started with another writer, but that was the first time I worked with McGillicuddy. But the ensuing films, we always started with a blank sheet of paper. And the first thing we did before we even thought of what the film was going to be about, we were thinking of a subject that would rub people up the wrong way. We'd say, you know, what's going to get them at it? Because, you know, with low budget movies, and you know, they didn't go out with big publicity campaigns. So if you could get you could wind the press up and get some bad publicity. You know, it's better. It's that whole story of, you know, it's better they say, as long as they mention your name, it doesn't matter what they say.
There's no such thing as bad
There's
publicity.
no such thing as bad publicity, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that was what one used to try and do. I used to, and it became a kind of thing with my films. I mean, you know, I got this reputation of being this bad boy.
You know, you said one thing that I think is very true, that if you're going to, most horror films deal with women in peril, but you always believe that we should know something about that woman.
Yeah.
We should have some background so we care about her.
Yeah.
And I think one of the problems with the slasher films of the 80s that began with Friday the 13th was the fact that you really don't get to know any of the victims,
yes.
or would you really care to?
Yes, but it's not a good idea, is it? I mean, they used to just bring in girls in bikinis and slash, you know. I mean, you really ought to care about them, shouldn't you? I mean, if somebody's going to, if you're going to kill somebody, you know, we should worry about it, and we should threaten them first, shouldn't we? How did I discover her? I was just casting a movie called House of Whipcord, and she walked into the office. I knew her as a comedy actress, actually, and but she came in and she had this thing about her. And, you know, comedians and comedy actors make wonderful villains. They're much more uninhibited, and so I took a chance on her. She's never done anything like this particular picture, House of Whipcord, before, where she played a very sadistic gay audience, and she was magnificent in it. So I mean, she became a regular.
Well, the word video nasty, whenever I see the word video, the phrase video nasty, there's always a picture of Sheila Keith drooling from fright and had to work with me. Do you want to say something about Skitso before we get to audience questions? Because
well, Skitso was an unusual film for me to have made. For me, it's probably of all the horror movies I made. I should say this, you're just about to see it. I'm always saying the wrong thing, but forgive me, that's what I do. It's probably the least favourite of my pictures. So it's got good stuff in it, but it didn't have that politically incorrect thing that I always went for. It didn't have the controversy. It didn't have the social comment that I usually put into my movies.
well, you would rather not have called it Skitso because that's so Hitchcockian in a way.
Well, it was intended to be that way. It's a long story actually about Skitso, and it would be wrong for me to tell the story because I'd give the end away if I spoke about it. But it was intended to be. And I don't think it quite came off, but I wanted it to out Hitchcock in a way. Hitchcock always lied in his movies. He always used to lie to the audience. And this is all I really want to say about Skitso. He always used to, and when I worked on this with McGillicuddy, I said, you know, I want to outdo Hitchcock. I want the whole movie is going to be a lie. And I want us to get away with it. And I don't know whether we did. I knew Lynn from when she was very young. I mean, she started as a child actress, and I think she was 21 when she did this. What comments? I thought she was. Lynn, I always thought was very, very nice, very pretty, and was a good actress. At the time, she had. When I cast her for this, I was invited to her agent's birthday party, and there were 20 people there. A very agent in London called David Del Valle. He represented Michael Caine. He had what they would call the Big Four. He had Michael Caine, Roger Moore, Peter Sellers, and Sean Connery, I think. He represented all four of them. And there was this dinner party to celebrate his 60th birthday, and Lynn Frederick was there, and I was there, and Peter Sellers there, and this is where he met Lynn Frederick at that particular party, just before we started Skitso. I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of fell into it. I mean, I was born and bred in the business, and I just kind of. I started out as a performer. I wasn't very good. I was a stand-up comic for about 4 years, believe it or not. And I don't know. I started to produce stage shows, summer season shows, mainly in light entertainment. And I don't know. I just fell into it. I've always had, a great, like all of you, a great film interest. So I knew what I was doing, but no, I don't know. How do you do? How do you suddenly become a film director? I mean, I suppose nowadays you go to film school and you do all that sort of stuff. But I mean, that wasn't the way it was in my days.
Pete, you just get an iPhone and make a movie now. Everyone out there is making a movie. If they haven't, they're going to make one when they go into the lobby. You have some other questions out there? I can't really clue.
How did you do as a stand-up?
How did I do as a stand-up?
And number two, could you tell us a joke?
You want to hear 55-year-old British jokes? I don't think you do. Maybe you do. The rest of the audience. How did I do as a stand-up? I lasted 4 years. I worked. I earned a living. But by that time, variety, vaudeville in England had become burlesque. So I was working in girly shows, and the audiences came to see girls, they didn't come to see stand-up comics.
But let me ask you something. If things were different, the fact that horror movies are so accepted now, and in a way that they weren't when you were making them in England, would you be making horror movies today if the situation were...
Well, I retired over 30 years ago as a filmmaker, and I didn't do it because, I couldn't get any more films together, which is why most people retire. I mean, I retired at the age of 42 because I felt that I was getting old to make the kind of movies that I was making at that time. So a short answer to your question is no, I wouldn't be making movies today. I didn't really enjoy making films. I didn't enjoy the process of actually shooting films. I'm saying things that people don't want me to.
Well, you didn't want to get up at 4 in the morning.
At 4 in the morning and have to control 40 people, with very little help. What I did love was the creative process. I loved, dreaming up the stories. I didn't mind editing the movies afterwards. I thought when it was all coming together, but the actual shooting of the movie, I didn't really enjoy. And I love the film industry, and I stayed in the film industry after I retired as a director. But and I've done a lot of movies.
wanted to have another evening with you next year, would we be able to get, say, House of Whitcourt and House of Mortal Sin and
Frightmare?
And Frightmare? Would you love to have? Let's have another evening with Pete Walker, shall we?
Lovely seeing you.